Hey, you ready for some pretty powerful poetry?
Ooh, I'm intrigued.
We're going deep into the world of Korean poet,
Kim Yoonja.
yeah, Kim Eunja, specifically her collection Speaking Asymmetrically.
Oh, speaking asymmetrically,
Mhm.
published by Hyundai Poetry.
Yeah, such a fascinating title, right?
It really is.
It makes you think.
Like right off the bat, what does that even mean? What is she talking about? It doesn't sound like she's talking about the poem's structure, being asymmetrical.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
It's more about a different kind of imbalance, I think.
Yeah.
Like the way life, throws us those curveballs.
Right,
How
exactly.
things rarely work out perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Kim really captures that beautifully.
And it's not always like a comfortable experience reading her work.
No, it's not always sunshine and roses, is it?
No. Like an abandoned salt farm, for example,
Uh-huh.
where she compares a woman to, an abandoned salt farm.
Right.
It's a little bleak, honestly,
It is.
but I couldn't shake the image.
It's poignant, that's the word.
Yeah.
That image of being left behind, forgotten.
Yeah.
It's like it speaks to a much deeper sense of loss than just a physical place, you know? Like there's a societal layer there almost. As if the woman is abandoned by expectations, by roles she's supposed to fill.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It's like the poem's asking, what happens when women are discarded, deemed no longer useful?
Exactly. And that sense of societal imbalance, of
Yeah.
expectations not aligning with reality. That's a thread that runs through so many of her poems.
And speaking of expectations versus reality, fragrant mastitis.
Ooh, yes.
Yeah.
Powerful one.
Really struck me.
Tell me about it.
I mean, using the pain of childbirth as a metaphor, it's not your typical, flowery poetry about motherhood, is it?
No, it definitely cuts through any romanticized notions, that's for sure.
Yeah. What resonated with you in that poem?
Well, for me, I think it was how she grapples with the weight of expectations placed on women, mothers specifically. That unspoken pressure to sacrifice, to endure pain silently. It makes you think, is this fragrance, this idealized image of motherhood, actually masking something much more raw and difficult?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And then there's the flip side, nature. Kim uses so much nature imagery in her poetry, but it's not all pretty flowers and sunshine.
Right.
Yeah, it's not all, butterflies and rainbows.
She often uses nature to highlight resilience, like how something can thrive in the harshest conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Like champagne mango recipe, for instance.
Ooh, yeah, that was a good one.
Aging, often seen as a decline, right? It's reframed as this process of ripening, becoming more complex and sweet over time, like a mango.
That one really stuck with me. Instead of fearing aging, she's almost celebrating it. There's this acceptance of the natural cycle of life, even the parts we might not love.
Yeah, and then there's round leaf sedum, where she compares a woman's strength to a plant clinging to life on a cliff edge.
Yeah.
This seemingly fragile thing enduring those brutal conditions.
It's an interesting contrast to the abandoned salt farm, isn't it? One's this emptiness, this giving up. But with the sedum, it's like there's this fierce determination to keep going,
Yeah, it's like she's saying, look, even in the face of such stark asymmetry, life finds a way. And that connects back to the title, right? Speaking asymmetrically.
Yeah.
She's not just observing imbalance. She's finding the strength, the beauty that can emerge from it.
And it's not just nature, right? She also tackles modern life head on. Shoe tossing immediately comes to mind.
Yeah, yes.
Mm.
Those shoes dangling from power lines in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's a uniquely urban image, isn't it? But it speaks to something universal about leaving a mark, about the traces we leave behind.
But are those marks intentional? Or are they just discarded remnants? It made me think about the disposability of modern life. We move so fast, leaving things behind, maybe even parts of ourselves.
It's fascinating how that one image, can spark such different interpretations.
And then there's Whiteout,
Mm-hmm.
where she talks about, erasing a message, changing its meaning. It's so relevant to how we communicate today, how technology can manipulate truth.
Absolutely.
And Black Ice, that was another one.
With that chilling image of hidden danger beneath this seemingly smooth surface.
Right, yeah.
I feel like that's a metaphor for so many aspects of our lives, the things we don't see coming.
Kim's poetry constantly challenges us to look deeper, to question what's on the surface.
You're right. Her poems are layered, revealing more with each reading.
I was curious about the language itself. Since we're only experiencing these poems through translation, is something lost in the process?
That's a great question, and luckily, we have a critic's commentary included with the collection.
Oh, cool. So what is that?
It's basically an essay written by a literary scholar.
Okay.
And they go, really in depth on Kim's work, exploring how her use of Korean grammar and wordplay
Mm-hmm.
adds a whole other dimension to her poetry.
So there's a richness there we might not even be aware of.
Exactly. For example, they mention how specific Korean words she uses have like multiple layers of meaning,
Hmm.
which kind of get flattened in translation, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can see that.
And the way she structures sentences using certain grammatical features of Korean actually heightens the imagery and emotional impact.
It makes me want to experience the poems in their original language.
Me too.
Well,
It's a reminder that translation, while valuable, can never fully capture the nuances of the original text.
yeah. Well, even in translation, there are so many lines that just jumped off the page for me.
Right.
Like in Abandoned Salt Farm, where she writes, "The wind alone could not be erased and left."
Oh, wow.
It's haunting how even in emptiness something remains.
It's like a whisper of what was, a lingering presence.
And from Fragrant Mastitis, this line, "I will write that I am expressing what has permeated until the last drop of milk is emptied."
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, it speaks to the depth of a mother's sacrifice.
It's powerful because what's not said is just as important as what is. All those unspoken expectations and burdens that go along with motherhood.
It gave me chills reading that line. And then there's this one from Dragon's Back. "Scales are the final destination of the dragon who could not live anywhere. It's about fate, about how even powerful creatures are bound by their own limitations."
It's a powerful image, suggesting that our attempts to escape our destiny might be what ultimately defines it.
Her imagery is so evocative. I constantly found myself pausing, trying to unpack what she was really saying, how it connected to my own life. It's like she's tapping into these universal truths about human experience.
You're right. She has a way of taking something seemingly ordinary, a salt farm, a mango, a shoe, and transforming it into a vehicle for profound insight.
Speaking of connections, there's a line in Aloe that really stuck with me where she describes a woman's grief as stoic, saying, "A single scream did not escape."
Ooh,
Such a powerful image, isn't it?
it is.
It reminds me of the aloe plant itself, tough on the outside, holding so much healing power within. And it made me think, have you ever experienced a loss so profound that you couldn't even express it outwardly?
I think many of us can relate to that feeling of being overwhelmed, almost paralyzed by grief. And Kim captures it perfectly in that one line.
Yeah, it's interesting how she uses nature to mirror human emotions in that way.
It's a reminder that we're not separate from the natural world. We experience those same cycles of growth, decay, loss, and renewal.
And sometimes that resilience, that ability to adapt and survive, is hidden beneath a stoic exterior like the aloe plant.
Powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And like the aloe, that resilience can be found in the most unexpected places. Remember that line from Yak's Origin? Even the excrement is offered as kindling.
I have to admit that one is not exactly, a feel-good image.
No, it's stark, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But it gets to the core of the poem's message, I think.
Mm.
The yak, burdened with carrying heavy loads, even its waste is put to use. It's like a reflection of the sacrifices we make, the way we find ways to survive even when life feels overwhelming.
So even in the midst of hardship, there's this resourcefulness, this like making the most of what we're given.
Exactly. It speaks to the human capacity for resilience, for finding purpose even in the face of adversity. And it ties back to that broader theme of asymmetry. Life throws us curveballs, but we find ways to adapt.
Okay, that makes more sense. It's not just about the burdens, but how we carry them.
And sometimes that carrying is a shared experience. Kim's urban poems, like Shoe Tossing, highlight that beautifully.
Right. We were just talking about those shoes dangling from power lines. Such a strange sight, but there's something almost poetic about it.
It is, isn't it? Those discarded shoes, they're not just trash. They become these markers of lives lived, journeys taken.
But you said something earlier about disposability, and I can't help but wonder if those shoes also represent something we've left behind. Parts of ourselves, maybe, in this rush of modern life.
That's a thought-provoking interpretation. It's as if the poem is asking, what are we sacrificing in the pursuit of progress? And what happens to the pieces we shed along the way?
That's a great point. It's like she's challenging us to consider the cost of our modern lifestyles.
And that challenge extends to the way we communicate. Whiteout, with its imagery of erasing and rewriting, makes you think about how easily information can be manipulated, especially in our digital age.
It's scary how relevant that poem feels today. We're constantly bombarded with messages, and it's hard to know what's real, what's been altered, what's been hidden.
Exactly. And Kim's poem reminds us to be critical consumers of information, to question what we see and hear, to look for what might be erased or obscured.
Speaking of obscured truths, black ice really gave me chills. That image of hidden danger beneath a seemingly safe surface. It's applicable to so much more than just icy roads.
It's a metaphor for those unseen threats that can catch us off guard. The poem serves as a reminder to be vigilant, to pay attention to the subtle signs, to be aware of the potential for things to not be as they seem.
It's fascinating how she uses these everyday images, shoes, whiteout, black ice, to convey such complex ideas about modern life.
It's part of her poetic brilliance, I think. She takes the mundane and elevates it, revealing the hidden depths beneath the surface.
And she does it in such a subtle way. I noticed how often she uses silence, the unsaid, to create an even greater impact.
You're picking up on a really important aspect of her work. Take fragrant mastitis again. When she writes, "I will write that I am expressing what has permeated until the last drop of milk is emptied," it's not just about the physical act of breastfeeding. It's about the unspoken sacrifices, the emotional labor, the constant giving that comes with motherhood.
It's like the poem itself is a form of speaking asymmetrically, expressing what's often left unsaid.
Exactly. Those unspoken messages resonate throughout her work. She leaves space for the reader to fill in the gaps, to draw their own connections and interpretations.
It makes the reading experience so much more engaging. It's not passive, you're actively wrestling with ideas, emotions, and experiences.
And that's what makes Kim's poetry so powerful, I think. It stays with you long after you've finished reading. It provokes questions, challenges assumptions, and invites us to see the world through a new lens.
After this deep dive into speaking asymmetrically, I'm feeling really inspired. Kim Eun-jo's work is a testament to the power of poetry, to move us, to make us think differently, to see the world in new ways.
I couldn't agree more. It's a gift to readers. An invitation to explore the complexities of human experience and the beauty that can be found in the midst of life's imbalances.
So for our listener, if you're intrigued by what you've heard today, we encourage you to seek out Kim Eun-jo's poetry. Her work is a journey worth taking.
It's a reminder that even in the face of adversity, there's always hope, always the possibility for growth and transformation.
And she finds such unique ways to express those ideas, using language and imagery that are both unexpected and deeply resonant.
It's poetry that stays with you long after you've finished reading. It sparks conversations, challenges assumptions, and invites us to see the world through a different lens.
I think that's the mark of truly great art, isn't it? It has the power to change us, to make us think differently, to feel more deeply.
Absolutely. And Kim Eun-jo's poetry definitely achieves that.
Brilliant.
It's a gift to readers, a testament to the enduring power of words to move and inspire us.
Well, after this deep dive into Kim Eun-jo's speaking asymmetrically, I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for her work. I'm definitely going to be revisiting these poems and exploring more of her writing.
I encourage everyone listening to do the same. Kim's poetry is a journey worth taking, an invitation to explore the complexities of human experience and the beauty of asymmetry.
And as you delve into her work, remember to pay attention to the silences, to those unspoken messages that resonate between the lines. They might just lead you to some unexpected discoveries about yourself and the world around you.
Happy reading.
It's like she's giving us permission, to acknowledge those unspoken parts of ourselves, the things we might shy away from expressing.
That's a really insightful observation. Kim's poetry, it doesn't shy away from discomfort.
No, it doesn't.
It leans into it, almost like urging us to confront the complexities and contradictions, that make us human.
And she does it with these incredibly powerful images. I keep thinking about that line from Abandoned Salt Farm. The wind alone could not be erased and left. So simple, yet so profound.
It speaks to the persistence of memory, doesn't it?
It does.
Even when something's gone, the traces remain. The wind becomes this metaphor,
Yeah.
for that lingering presence, that feeling of absence. That can be so palpable.
Yeah, it's like a ghost of what was. And that connects back to the theme of loss, which is so central to her work.
Yeah.
But it's not just about, the sadness of loss. It's also about what endures, what remains.
Exactly. There's this resilience woven into those experiences of loss.
Mm,
And that's where nature comes in again, I think.
yeah.
Kim uses natural imagery to explore not just the fragility of life, but also its incredible capacity for renewal.
Like the round leaf sedum clinging to that cliff edge.
Precisely. Or the ripening mango in Champagne Mango Recipe. There's this acceptance of the natural cycles of life,
Yeah.
of growth and decay,
Mm.
and the understanding that beauty can emerge from like unexpected places.
It's a powerful message, especially in a world that often prioritizes, youth and perfection. Kim's poetry invites us to embrace the imperfections, the asymmetries, and to find meaning in the fullness of experience, even the difficult parts.
And to recognize that those experiences, both the joyful and the painful, shape who we are. They become part of our story.
Which brings us back to that central idea of speaking asymmetrically. It's not just about the imbalances in life, it's about finding a way to give voice to them, right? To articulate the things that are often left unsaid.
You've captured the essence of it perfectly. Kim's poetry encourages us to embrace those silences, to listen to the whispers between the lines, and to find our own ways of expressing the complexities of human experience.
So for our listener, as you explore Kim Yoonja's work, pay attention to those unspoken messages, to the spaces between the words. Let her poetry spark your own reflections on the asymmetries in your life.
Mhm.
What are the stories you've been hesitant to tell? What are the truths you're longing to express?
Yeah, allow yourself to be challenged, to be moved, to see the world through a new lens. Kim's poetry is a gift, an invitation to embrace the fullness of human experience and to find beauty in the most unexpected places.
And who knows, maybe it'll inspire you to speak your own truths, asymmetrically, authentically. Happy reading.